All right, so I'm kind of known for starting on time. I don't have my gavel, but I'm starting on time. All right, so I'm just going to review a couple of basic things, what I'm hoping to accomplish here, and a little bit of the rules. It's not the same as a city council meeting, but one of the things that I need for you to know is we're lucky enough that we have another council member here tonight. Marlene Shaw is in the back, okay? So what does that mean? That means that I will give my opinion on absolutely nothing, okay? Because we don't want to run into a problem with sunshine laws, and Councilmember Shaw will give her opinion on absolutely nothing. Okay, we're here to listen. In some of the training that I've been to in the last couple months, you know, one of the things that comes up again and again is we're not only here to fix today's problems, but we're here to lead into the future. And, you know, I don't know that I'll be around in 2050, but in order to even start trying to get the boat going one way or the other, I kind of need to know what the residents want. So, and I know it's always important to know who's in your audience. So can I have just a show of hands? How many people in here right now are residents of Gulfport? Woohoo! Almost everybody. Second show of hands. How many people in here right now are business owners in Gulfport? 1, 2, 3. Raise them high. Be proud. Okay. Maybe 20% of the room. That's good. And I say that because we need to hear from residents and business owners when we're trying to figure out what direction we need to be going in. So I'm going to have up here two what I'm going to call recorders who are going to write down your ideas, or not your ideas. This is your vision. What do you foresee? What do you want to foresee? Where would you like to see us go? How do you envision Gulfport 25 years from now? To me, that seems like 2050 seems so far away, but then I think about it, I've been here 15 years already and feel like I just got here. So really, 2050 is not that far away, okay? So what I'm gonna do is we're going to have 2 mics, and I'm gonna ask that everybody speak on the mic because it is being recorded so people can listen to it later. And that way everybody's heard. Second thing is that I've got these 2 lovely gals up here who are going to record. They're going to alternate, you know, just a summary of what you said so that I can then take these sheets back and use this. This is kind of like my homework. You know, for me, this is my roadmap. And of course, I'll be sharing this with everybody at a council meeting, as you can imagine. I am hoping that every single person here has an idea, has thought about this a little bit, and wants to come up and speak. I imagine everybody will be a little bit shy to begin with, so I'm going to kick it off by asking a question that might make it easier to get started. I don't have any desired results. I want to know, I mean, I'm serious when I say I want to know what you're thinking and how you would like to see the city move forward. There's not going to be any rebuttals, okay? If somebody comes up here and paints their vision and you think, wow, that's pretty bizarre, keep it to yourself, okay? Come up and paint your vision, but let's not do rebuttals on anybody else's vision. I hope that everybody will be somewhat specific, meaning if you come up and say, I want Gulfport to be as loving and nurturing as it is right now, that's not going to be that helpful. You know, let's get specifics, would be more helpful. There will be times, I know for absolute sure, that some of the things that people are going to say that they'd like to see, they probably aren't legal, okay? And I'm really not trying to make a joke. I mean, there's some state laws in effect right now that really do affect many things that we can and can't do. And I can't predict the future, how it's going to be, so I don't even know that I'll necessarily rebuttal any of those. You know, this is, in the perfect world, if you could have everything you want, what do you want, okay? I'm going to really ask very strongly that there not be side conversations. You know, every person, when they have their turn at the mic, it would be nice if everyone was listening to what they had to say as they paint their vision, as opposed to other people talking amongst themselves. Oh, if you have your phones on, please turn them off. I didn't bring mine in here for that very reason. And I am going to ask you, as I said at the beginning, to use the microphone. We are going to do 3 minutes, okay? That way, everybody should have an opportunity to speak who wants to. And like I said, I'll kick off with questions just to get the ball rolling here a little bit. And then we're going to open it up to you just coming and addressing the things that are important to you that I didn't even think to ask the question. Unless you'd like to reverse the order. What do you think? I need to hear from you. Pardon? Stick with the questions? Okay. So here's my first question to you. And hopefully you've thought about this for a minute already, because you knew I was going to ask a few questions. If we were to offer more services, what services would you like to see? And when you answer that, what would the new services be? I would also like, if you have the nerve, to state if you'd be willing to pay a little bit more in taxes for that or not. Okay, who's going to be the first one to come up and speak? Thank you.
We're just addressing that.
This question at this time, we will have an open floor as well.
All right, well, one thing that I would love to see for Gulfport is a community swim center, specifically for children, of course, but for all ages, and monitored, managed in a way so that the elderly people can have their time, everyone can be safe and feel happy. But I think it's a real oversight for Gulfport not to have that for the kids in this community.
Thank you. Okay, who's next? Yes. And I think I can see pretty good with these lights on me, but if not, it's okay to yell out. Hi.
Hi. I'll just kind of jump off of that since we're talking about kids. My son will be in his 20s in 2050, and we plan to be here still. And so more services for children and expansion of the rec center program. That was great. I couldn't get my son into tot time because the spots were all full. And gathering places for intergenerational connections. So the library is a great place for that. Our wonderful parks and playgrounds, but more things to engage the next generation that are going to be here in Gulfport.
Okay, so what you're saying is what you're seeing at the rec center now is not enough?
That was my personal experience
Okay.
in trying to get my son into tot time. There were not enough spots.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Right here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I see you in the back in the blue. You're next. And hey, it's totally okay too. I would prefer not to have to call on people. Just come stand up in front of the mics. That'd be absolutely fine. I'd like that. Yes, please.
As a person with serious vision issues, I make use of gems, but I think it would be great to be able to expand that. It's mostly daytime until 4 p.m., and it would be nice to have that on the weekends and into the evening.
Okay, so for 2050, you'd like to see a bigger gym at the senior center? Is that what you're saying? Gems. Thank you. I knew I had missed a word. I put down expanded gym, so thank you. I'm glad I clarified. Yes, please.
Yeah, to jump off the one lady was talking about services where the community get together. I'd love to see like an outdoor like concert venue, like maybe it doesn't have to be huge, like a small amphitheater. Some of the other small municipalities have those type things where they do community events. They used to do like they'd show movies, for instance, behind the rec center would drop a big whatever it's called screen and show movies where the community could get together or, have different concerts and stuff. Would be really cool. But, that's if the budget there's also the fiscal side of it.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about budget right now. We're talking pie in
Okay.
the sky. Let's, it's 25 years. But I'm curious, I never have seen a movie back there in my 15 years. How far back does that go?
Oh, I've lived in Gulfport over 40 years.
Okay.
And actually, St. Pete Beach started doing it a couple years ago before, when the theater was down. I think they used it to raise money. They showed like old Wizard of Oz and I think at the time it was just older movies. But everybody got together. They actually brought in a couple food trucks. So it was good for the community. Also would bring a lot more business down there for our business owners. I think we need to do a lot of stuff to reinvigorate Gulfport as far as businesses, as far as our community events and stuff. I was really and I know there's a bunch behind the scenes that goes into it, but I was really depressed that there was no fireworks. Because, that brought a lot of people into the city, and a lot of people in this county envied Gulfport for their fireworks. So it brought a lot of people outside of the city into our city that we could be proud of. And I was really, but I know there's things behind the scenes, and hopefully we can step that back up. But thank you for your time.
Okay. Yes.
Jeez. So I want to expand on what Laura Lee said. I think that public transit is sorely lacking in this community. The get-go was a lovely idea, was poorly executed. The freebie that they have in St. Pete Beach, now they're charging for it because you really can't run that kind of a thing for nothing. Because the bus system, the PSTA system, yes, it comes through town, but you can't get from here to there on it. You can get into St. Pete, you can get to Tyrone Mall, something beyond what GEMS does. That is on call. You don't have to make an appointment for them to come and find you.
And do you feel like Uber doesn't serve that role?
I don't use Uber around town, but I guess I could.
Do you want it to be free?
No,
Free this or paid?
no, paid. Absolutely paid. I haven't tried taking Uber in town. Have you?
Nope. I have a bike.
Well, I can't.
Yeah, it's okay. I was just, I'm only really going to try and speak if I'm trying to clarify. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay. Yes.
I came up to the mic.
Thank you.
I want to kind of talk about the parks, like we were talking about, we need more parks. I read an article today about a sponge park in Atlanta and how they made it so that the water went, when they had floods, the water went down into where they were like having music, but you could soak up the water. We're a coastal community. And when I see what happened a year ago, I want all of our parks, I want more trees, I want more plants, I want everything possible that is a sponge. I want our drains, and in Houston, I went to high school in Houston. They have bayous there where the water comes in to the bayous. If we could look at other coastal communities and other communities like Houston that are built on a swamp, ways that we can make this coastal community survive and not just disappear underwater.
Right. So while you're up there, let me just to clarify, where do you suggest we could put bioswales or bayous in Gulfport?
Well, we have, when you look at, not Shore Boulevard, not Gulfport Boulevard, Beach Boulevard, and you see the park there, and we already have a nice lake or pond that could actually have less water in it or be drained out if there's going to be a storm, something. I just know, I am not an engineer, but I know we're not the only coastal community in the world, and that, for instance, the Netherlands, they've all found ways to deal with the fact that they're a coastal community, and at high tide, good luck. So I think if we just find ways to plant along the shoreline, and if we lose a little beach doing that, oh well, find out where the water pools and figure out a way to soak that up.
Great. All right, so we're talking about what services you'd like to see added. Courtney, were you next? Okay.
Sorry, David. Hello. I have a couple of wish list items. One, I myself do not have children, but I very much see the difficulty a lot of people are facing being civically engaged whilst they are also being caregivers. So I would love to see and gladly pay for childcare during civic events like city hall meetings, or city council meetings, during meetings like this, just to get more people and more voices into the room. I also would like to see investment in more agile infrastructure rather than brick infrastructure, fixed infrastructure. So rather than rebuilding things that can't be picked up and moved, try to think about if we need to redo the restrooms in some place, to have mobile restrooms or things that we can relocate and be more responsive and agile. And I don't know if this falls under this, but I'm really excited about this and I want to share it. Big dream is that from the casino to Veterans Park, that should not be paved. That should be a pedestrian space. That could be a green space. That could be a paved, or not a fully paved space. I would look to places like the UK for the high streets, Boulder. There are a lot of cities that are Church Street in Burlington, Vermont. I think it would be a massive boon for the businesses there, as well as for increasing our intentional coastal preservation and green spaces.
Thank you. Does anybody have an extra pen? Because mine just ran out and I wanted to write some notes. I'll give it back. Thank you.
You don't trust us?
Well,
I'm teasing.
I don't always write down what people are saying. I write down what
you're thinking.
I'm thinking when they're talking about it. Okay, David.
Piggyback on what she said here about the stormwater. I kind of make it a habit to drive around the city when the storms are coming through, which drives Catherine crazy. So what I've looked up is stormwater detention vaults that are placed over my construction years in parking lots. They dig the parking lots out 10 feet deep and they put these vaults in there and they grab the water and then it holds there and then it is released over time. It's stormwater detention vaults, you can Google it. Beach Boulevard here gets rammed, both sides of the street. These can be placed in parks where you're not interfering with infrastructure, so we could probably use some of our parks to put these in. It's gonna take some work to do it, you know, engineers gotta design it. You could probably put them in the streets, underneath the streets, where they come down 15th. Water just flows down 15th. It flows down 59th, or 58th, like there's no tomorrow. I don't know if that's, you know, feasible to put them underneath the streets to solve this problem, but we have plenty of parks around here. We could grab that water. So there are stormwater detention vaults. So just one thing about that. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else for services that you would like to see added between now and 2050? Lenny.
Well, Gulfport now is working with St. Pete and Charles Park on Fusion 49th Street. I would think that would be really lovely would be to have a cultural center that would honor Gulfport and Child's Park and the history, which would feature different artifacts, and be a community center that would have various learning opportunities and also recreation, so that we can help service the families that are living in that area. Could incorporate daycare and recreational activities, and make it kind of an expansive area that would help attract more people to this area, someplace on 49th Street.
Okay. Anybody else want to address what they would like to see a change in services?
Is there different sections for different topics?
I'm going to ask a couple questions, and then when people quit answering, then we're just going to open it up, and you can say anything you want. Okay.
Hi, my name is Stuart, and I'm moving here in 2 months. And when I thought it was the subject was the waterfront, was re-envisioning the waterfront. So one service that came to my mind was having like one of those bicycle rental stations at the waterfront for people coming to visit, to be able to go around town. I thought maybe like a little dog play area would be nice along the waterfront, but today I spent some time walking and bicycling around, and I was thinking along the same lines as the people with the landscape ideas, partnering with a botanical garden and turning the entire waterfront into like a botanical garden, from the Veterans Park to the recreation center. So not only to be something stand out and distinguish Gulfport, having a coastal, maybe native Florida botanical garden, but it could also help with stormwater retention, maybe barriers, landscape design. A lot of it is not only for aesthetics, but for flood control. I don't know what you all are planning doing with the casino, but I'm thinking it ought to be raised. I'm sure there's already been a lot of discussion about it, but I have an idea to go along with redesigning the whole waterfront, perhaps getting rid of all the surface parking in the park, so that will expand the size of the park. And then like where the volleyball courts were, put a parking garage that'll replace the surface parking, so that because a lot of the times all that surface parking seems to be empty. So it's just a paved area. And on top of the parking garage, you could turn it into a public space, like a public park with volleyball courts and nets and spectacular views.
Well, I guess people would have to change their volleyball serve based on the wind up there. All right. Yes, please.
Comment about the one gentleman was talking about the movies. About 2012 or so, Corey Avenue in St. Pete Beach, that theater was closed, and they closed the street and brought in a truck that had a big screen on it, and they ran movies on that. And then people would bring their own chairs and sit out there and have a night there, and it benefited all the stores, and it worked out real well. I'd just like to say one other thing, and that is that we're looking to 2050. So we have to be realistic, I think. The one gentleman spoke about what they call infiltration when it comes to vaults and things. I think it's a good idea. We have areas that we could do that with. Like when they built the Dunkin' Donuts, they don't have a retention basin, it's underground.
I heard, yeah.
It's all their retention is in infiltration. You could do that in the park areas, you could do it in the streets. It's not cheap, but it works. The other thing is, I think this is a little bizarre, but I think from 29th to the beach, you gotta raise the sidewalk. Let the businesses raise themselves, but you gotta get up to that area, almost like John's Pass, almost like a boardwalk from there and around. And then you're above the water, you're above the flood, you're above those issues. As far as the fireworks is concerned, a number of areas have done light shows with drones now, and they're great. I mean, they do American flags, they do all this stuff, and they'll play loud music and things like that, but you won't have the fireworks. So I think we should think about that. But particularly the flooding can be dealt with in different ways, but we got till 25 years to do it. I don't think that's enough to get it all done.
Okay, I'm going to switch to the second question unless somebody's... Oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Okay, and you're going to mention that the History Museum does movies?
No, just on the movie thing. I made the Jeebus movie, and we're actively doing this now. So we're going to be doing this anyway. But if Gulfport City wants to help in any way, it'd be appreciated and awesome. But we're showing Jeebus at that same beach theater you mentioned on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And when you look at 2050 and where the economies are going, where AI, robotics, automation, it's going to wipe out a lot of jobs, but creativity is going to be the new industry, right? Trillions and trillions of dollars. And so, and if you look at the younger generations that came up through social media and stuff, this is all they know. I mean, they're making a living doing fitness content and health and beauty content and all sorts of stuff. So what I'd like to do with Revel Media is be somewhat of a hippie Walt Disney, if you will, you know, and so I'd like to make movies, TV shows, podcasts, music, all sorts of purpose-driven entertainment right out of Gulfport. And if you look at what that would do for the city, not only culturally, but financially, is say we have a big center. Revel has a stage where we do shows. We got music studios, podcast studios, films, green screen studios, and we're making, just like Jeebus, we just made it in the street, you know. It goes on that same theater that's our own. And when you look at, say we have a bunch of successful creatives, that increases the tax base. So by 2050, that's going to be a major, major source of tax base revenue. You know, if we can get a couple stars out of here, like Sylvester Stallone's Rocky in Philly, or Mark Wahlberg's early beginnings, or like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, or like we have really, signature creators from this area. And because we do co-ops where the cast and crew of each movie co-own it. So like say Jeebus blows up and becomes a hit. This would be kind of like the case study. So say Jeebus becomes Napoleon Dynamite and makes $100 million. I'm dreaming, but we're aiming for that. The cast and crew own 49% of it. So that's $49 million that goes into a bunch of local hippies instead of us getting what do they call it, gentrified, and new people coming in and turning more like Miami. You get a bunch of hippie, funny bums still being Gulfport around here, and you get $49 million that gets taxed and comes back into the city. So something to do with like a multimedia center that's like an employment zone. That's something I think would be great and fits with the culture here.
All right, thank you. Remember, we're going to try and limit to 3 minutes. So I'm going to move on to the next question then. You spoke to that question, didn't you? Yes. Okay, thought so. So the first question I asked you, if you wanted to see more services, what would they be? So the next question would be, what services do you receive now that you could care less about, that you would like to see us not have, that you'd like to see us farm out? Okay? And with the first question, nobody responded with if they're willing to pay more taxes or not. And on this question, it's kind of irrelevant. It's not about money, but what expenses I don't mean to say that. What services would you like to see us not continue? David, you're first.
Trash pickup twice a week is ridiculous. Ridiculous. It's
Okay.
once a week. I have 2 bags of trash, and these guys come by and throw the 2 bags of trash in the back of the 3 guys, one driving the truck. It's ridiculous. Once a week.
Okay.
And if you need a second pickup because you have extra stuff, make the call to the city and they'll come by 37 houses instead of 15,000 houses. So,
All right. Thank you.
should address
Yes.
that at the council meeting.
That's the first thing on my mind as well. It's redundant. I think I might be stealing Karen's thunder with a, what is it, pay to throw? You have a cuter pay as you throw system for trash. That doesn't, I mean, that's not the scope of it, but I mean, that is the scope of it, but it's not exactly what you asked. This is a hot topic, but we spend a lot on our police. And yes, we are very safe, but yes, we are only 2.7 square miles. And so it would just be worth maybe looking into like what we are actually spending money on. But yeah, that's a hot topic. But yeah, I'm gonna say it.
I'm glad you raised it.
Police.
This is the place. This is a safe place to raise the issue. I mean, if you want additional services, but you don't want to pay additional taxes, then what services are you getting now that you don't want to pay for and aren't important? That is what I'm asking. Karen.
In addition to the pay-as-you-throw or tiered system, which is done all over Florida and all over the United States, curbside compost. I lived in a community where you put your compost out with your recycling and your trash, and it went to a city-owned compost place where you had the, okay, you put the stuff in your backyard composter, and some of the things never decay. They never do because it doesn't get hot enough. But if you have, I can't think of the word for it, if you have, it's like economies of scale or something like that. If you have enough of the organic material together, all of those recyclable things that they give you at the takeout, you know, when you take stuff out that will never decompose in your home compost, they just turn into garbage. That's what I'd like to see.
So you'd like to eliminate one of the trash days and encourage everyone to compost?
Yes.
Okay.
And recycle more, have more recycling opportunities.
What services do we have right now that are not important to you? Yes.
I'm going to speak to some of the ones that are important, and one of them is trash day. I know a lot of folks are saying that they would like to see the garbage trucks only come once a week. Florida's hot, and we have a lot of critters here, rats, and if the city of Gulfport would go down to one day a week garbage pickup, they would be out till 9 o'clock because you can't get all that garbage in one run. You just can't do it. And I would look at how much it's costing us for a 2-day pickup versus 1-day pickup. They're going to be out there just as many hours. Cause I know my garbage cans are always full. I have grandbabies at my house all the time. I've been living in Gulfport for 30 years. I would not like to see the police go. I work for Pinellas County and I've been there 30 plus years. I've retired, but I'm doing some of that drop program. And now when we call the Gulfport police, you get Pinellas County, and Pinellas County calls Gulfport, and then Gulfport comes. When I first moved here, you called the police were at your house in 2 minutes. Let me tell you something, crime isn't getting better, crime is getting worse. We need to keep our community strong, we need to keep our city strong, and if that means paying a little more taxes, we need to do it, because after a hurricane, and you want somebody to come help you, there ain't gonna be nobody to come if we don't have our own city. Because Pinellas County, I work there. We're taking care of Pinellas County first. We'll get to Gulfport, but we're gonna get to Gulfport in our good time. We need our city, we need our police, and we need to pull together in times of struggles. And cutting jobs is not where it's at. I'm here to tell you, I see it. They cut, and you save a few dollars in taxes. Well, I would like to know where all this money went in taxes. My taxes in Gulfport are great because I lived here since 1982. I bought a house. Mine are $400 a year because I'm an old head. I've been here for a long time. But my neighbors, who I used to set their clocks for, that came down from Canada, and their taxes were cheap, they sold that house, but now they're getting $4,800 a year for those taxes. Where is that money going? Somebody tell me, because I need to know. I mean, they paved my road probably twice since I lived there. I think we just need a little more transparency on where our money's going. We all may need to pitch in a little bit, but we better keep our city and our government strong here if we want somebody to help us in times of need. Because when shit hits the fan, you're gonna be looking around, who's coming? Oh, wait, we got Pinellas County now. Or you call the police and you're waiting for the sheriff and the guy's out and they got your kid or your daughter or whatever outside hemmed up. They're coming in a couple hours, they might come. Or they might say, we can't come. I've seen it. I've been here, I've been living in Gulfport a long time. I ain't saying we're getting better, I'm not saying we're getting worse, but we better come together. How many people been living in Gulfport more than 10 years in here? How many more than 20? I've been here 30, and it's a great place. And listen, we pull together when we need to, but don't make cuts. If we got to all pay a little bit more, let's pay a little bit more, but don't.
All right, so again, I'm just trying to get your visions. We're not making any decisions here tonight. And of course, I can't give any kind of comments at all because there's other council people here. And if we were ever to vote on it,
Yeah, I will. And one thing I would like to see for the council is, I'm not asking for an answer, but when we go to make decisions like this, let's try to do it in a voting year when you can run on that. You know what I mean? And then we all get to vote for that.
okay, so just one simple rule. We're going to try and keep it to 3 minutes and really not trying to rebuttal each other, but we want to hear what your opinion is, what your vision is, okay? Please.
I wanted to follow up on my last thing, that I am not afraid of more taxes on services that I value. One thing that is a service that I do not appreciate, and I feel like maybe also a hot button issue, is fines for not mowing the grass. I think that perfectly manicured lawns are not something the future of Gulfport needs. We need sustainable plantings that are drought tolerant, rain tolerant, and when the grass grows like crazy with all of our rain, getting a fine for not cutting it is not, or a citation and threats of that is not helpful, is not something I'm interested in. I'd rather get support on how to make sure my lawn is sustainable and low maintenance.
Thank you. Yes, you are allowed to go speak.
Hi, I feel like we should not have a software that stalks short-term rental people and an ordinance code that allows like them to just be blown up just because they exist. I do feel that if there is an issue and you need to report it and you need help there, that's important. Like, call the police, there's a wild party, someone's doing bad stuff. But as far as spending a lot of money on software that we probably barely use and spending, I know our attorney, Andy, went over how the process of the code enforcement works, and it is a very lengthy process. It involves a lot of paperwork, a lot of time, a lot of people power. So if they're running around crazy for every little thing, that's a lot of money that we're spending when there are real serious problems that we really should be addressing. So,
Thank you. Regina?
Okay, I just want to give my opinion on two of these things. The garbage pickup, it gets really hot here. There are times in the summer where I keep my garbage in the refrigerator because I don't want to put it out till it's ready, they're ready to pick it up. So I don't agree with once a week. I don't think it's enough. And our police department is one of the reasons I live here. That's
so
all.
what don't you need? What don't you need? Is there anything we do that we don't need?
No, but I would be willing to pay more money for the extra garbage pickup and the police department.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, anybody else on that one? Okay, so I feel like we are talking about a lot of current issues and things that we're working on now as opposed to visioning for the future. So my next question. Currently, and I say this because we have a lot of new construction that's going to be coming on, as you can imagine. I think, what I do know, I can't tell you how many new homes are going to be built, but I do know that there were 88 homes that applied for Elevate Florida and didn't get Elevate Florida. Okay, so that meant they were over the 50%, okay? And they did not get any assistance from Elevate Florida to help. We did get 6 homeowners who are going to get assistance. So what that tells me is whether it's those homeowners or the person who ends up buying that lot, we're going to have a lot of construction going on. So I wanted to just ask you how you feel about the fact that right now, oh, you know what? I can't really ask this question because this is something that could come up for vote later, so I apologize. Never mind. Yep, I'm just having a...
Do you have a question about the future?
No. Something could come up for vote, so I'm going to move on. I would like to know what area do you think in 2050, what is going to be considered our downtown area? Where is it going to extend to? Would you like to see a hotel? Would you not like to see a hotel? Would you like to see mixed-use zoning in 2050? Yes. Mixed-use zoning is where, let's say that you have a 2-story building, and on the first story, maybe you have a restaurant, and the second story, you have apartments. So an example of mixed-use zoning that everybody knows is what we refer to as the blue building. Okay, so that's a good example of mixed use.
I think the downtowns, the Beach Boulevard, Shore Boulevard, where it's popping with all the stores and stuff, and on the use of real estate by 2050. And if you're in this demographic, keep in mind that by 2050, I'll be in this demographic as well. So this is a pure subject. I think 55 plus housing should be illegal. You wouldn't let, we said blacks had to use a different water fountain. You can't say a different age group can't live there. And by 2050, housing is going to be really expensive. It's currently really expensive. There's people who have housing issues. The rent is wild. And this city is so vibrant and artistic and neat. And the way community is supposed to work together is, the youth helps the old in hurricanes. And if there's somebody who comes on their land, the youth can help them carry heavy stuff. And the older people can tell them stories that impart wisdom. So I think different ages cohabitating is a good idea. It also makes housing more affordable. And personally, I was in the embassy at Town Shores, and if they're hearing this, I hope they hear it more, and I hope it's illegal. So let's outlaw 55 plus. It's ageist.
Okay, who else wants to talk about downtown? There's federal laws, and the city can't overrule federal laws. So, what can I say? Yes.
Couple of things you mentioned that were somewhere on my list here. Mixed use, I think 49th Street and Gulfport Boulevard, that both of those roads are begging for mixed use development to provide actual affordable housing for people who live in Gulfport and the area. Great opportunity for commerce and for living without damaging neighborhoods, without disrupting lovely communities. So I think that's one. As far as a hotel, I think everybody would agree, well, most would agree that scale is everything. When you talk about a cute little boutique hotel, sure, why not? Do we want a great big place? I'm pretty sure nobody would want that. So I would imagine that there would be a good case for that. I love what Amy and others are doing to take commerce, not away from downtown, but to develop it in other parts of the city. So 49th Street, Gulfport Boulevard, 58th, 15th, there's Tangerine. There's other places where we can have more retail, more services, and make a more walkable community where people can walk to something. That is one of the very special things about Ward 2 in our part of Gulfport, and we realize a lot of people don't get that, and it's really great. So I think if anything we are able to do over time to encourage that is great. And how downtown evolves, if it expands, it should be organic in response to need, but not something we plan to do to raise residential just to build more boutiques. That's it.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, going along the line of what Jonathan said about 49th Street and what I mentioned earlier about a cultural center, it also should be a transit hub. There's a bus line coming from 18th, and we're talking about the future, 2050. So hopefully by that time, single passenger cars are a thing of the past. We'll be using all sorts of different types of transportation, including mass transportation, a cultural center on 49th Street that would also be a transit hub, which would connect by shuttle other parts of Gulfport into Pinellas, Pasadena, South Pasadena, and Childs Park. And that could also, 49th Street has a lot of vacant areas, and some of the businesses are probably not going to be there. They're kind of like car shops and things like that. Maybe a medium-sized hotel might fit there. But 49th Street, I think, has got a major potential that we should look at for transportation, transit, and cultural.
Okay. Who's next? Yes.
I would like to see less asphalt in Gulfport. I think our streets need to, again, like I was saying before about soaking everything up, making a sponge. The brick streets are wonderful. They're a little rough when you're riding a bike, and people don't drive too fast because they're rough. That's good. But I think we need to, like, all the asphalt around the marina. Do we need all that? Can't that be something that soaks up the water? So, and I also know that we can lower the temperature of our city by 3 degrees if we have enough tree canopy. So I think that all of those things, and the roots of those trees soak up water too. So I'm not trying to be miss-environmental here, but I'm just thinking about the water that we're getting and how we can make it better for the heat and the flooding. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Well, I think the question was about mixed use development.
Well, that I was asking about where do you envision downtown's going to be? It starts where, expands where? How
Oh.
far? Are you open to mixed use in the downtown area? You know, hotels? I mean, everything I'm hearing is kind of the stuff I was hoping to be hearing.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, mixed use, absolutely. I don't have a problem with mixed use in neighborhoods either, depending on what the mix is. I also agree that less asphalt. If we could re-brick all of our streets, oh my God. But it's very cost prohibitive.
Yes.
I think that the mixed-use idea is a really good idea, particularly on 49th Street and 22nd. The issue is going to be, as it has been in Gulfport for years, is parking. You know, and as you do mixed use, you've got to, how do you accommodate that? Particularly on 22nd Avenue, it's pretty narrow from the street to the alley in the back, or the first street in the back. And 49th Street, is another issue. But I think it's really a good idea. I think, but again, one of the things you have to deal with is the parking, both for the customers of the mixed retail use on the first level, and then whoever's going to be the people using the residential areas above that. But it's a really good idea. I think one of the things you can look at is what, I'm not recommending it looks like this, but what the city of St. Petersburg did with the Skyway Marina District, the incentives they put out to developers to do that. I mean, you wound up with 3 shopping centers getting just bought out and apartments going in. I'm not advocating apartments, but I'm saying if you can create zoning and incentives that give people the development opportunities to come in and build a mixed use with their adequate parking in the residential use, I think that's the planning has to take place first.
Okay.
I think
Yes.
mixed use is a great idea. Just what Jonathan said, we're happy to be up there doing some good work. There's a lot of homes all along Gulfport Boulevard that are currently mixed use, but I don't know if you can like live in part of it and then have a shop in the front. It's really hard to be a small business owner, and it's hard to, pay your bills at home and pay your bills at your business and hope that people are coming and everyone's struggling. So I think that's super important. I also think the zoning, I know zoning is a hot topic for us, and I know why, and we don't want developers to come in and start snatching up everything and making craziness. But if you really think about it, we have 88 homes who can't get Elevate Florida, which means developers are going to come in, they're going to tear them down, they're going to build big homes that are up, property taxes are going to go through the roof downtown. Those small businesses that are downtown may not be able to afford those rents anymore. So I think it's important. No, I'm just saying, I think it's important to think about as businesses grow that we have space for them to be. And like along Gulfport Boulevard, I know we talked with the city manager about outdoor seating and tables and chairs, and the zoning up there is such that in order to change your own zoning to have like outdoor seating for say a restaurant, you have to change the zoning on the whole from Pasadena to 49th Street. But with restaurants like Julio's, the old barbecue place that was the medical or whatever, the marijuana
Smokin'
place.
Joe's.
Yeah, Smokin' Joe's. They have like an outdoor space. There's lots of outdoor spaces, but no one can use it because of the zoning. But that corridor from the city to the beach is where people drive through, and they drive by so fast and they don't see that there's businesses there. But if you drive down Gulfport Boulevard and there's canopies and there's twinkle lights and there's seating out front of all these businesses, people are going to slow down and look and be like, oh, what's this? It's a restaurant, it's a cafe, let's stop in. And I know when people come to our space and say, oh, we didn't even know Gulfport was here. Where should we go to lunch? I give them a whole list. I say, we have a whole downtown. We've got places all over the place. So I think it could be win-win for everyone if that ability to expand your business and, you know, have the zoning comply where, I know it was about $1,500 or something to change the zoning. I know as a business owner, I don't have that to change the zoning for the whole town, but it'd be great if it was a little bit more flexible.
Very good. Courtney?
Kind of to piggyback on that, I am pro reevaluating what zoning looks like. I'm thinking specifically along 15th Avenue South, over by Stetson and 58th Street. Anita is fantastic and holds down the fort at the Funky Flamingo right at the corner there, but she could really use a few more businesses around there. I myself live on 15th Avenue South and have high hopes of it being, the homes there are a little bit newer than the bungalows that are downtown, but lend themselves really nicely to places like a chiropractor's office or an acupuncturist's office, small sort of home businesses or little cafes, little shops. I think about going on First Avenue South towards downtown St. Pete. You see all those things popping up, the tea house, the flower cafe, just really sweet small businesses. I think it would be a major boon for Stetson, and Stetson could have really good relations with that because right now their students, they don't have anywhere to go if they want just a quick snack. They only have one little cafe on campus, but I feel like that could be a really good sort of reinvigoration of that stretch and also help support businesses on Gulfport Boulevard and really kind of expand the types of businesses that we can have here in town. Oh, and roundabouts. Don't underestimate the power of roundabouts for slowing traffic, for letting people see what they're looking at when they go by, for introducing green space. Roundabouts on 15th Avenue South quiet the traffic. It is not an evacuation zone, so you don't need to worry about that. For better or worse, PSTA has redesigned their maps, so we don't have a bus there anymore starting in November. So traffic will change, and this could be an opportunity to kind of reimagine that.
Very good. So, quick question for you.
Yeah.
I never thought about the Stetson students. They don't have any restaurants on campus. They don't have a cafeteria, just a snack bar?
They have a cafeteria, they have a snack bar, and then they have like a sort of like higher end dining for faculty and things, but it's all run by one organization.
Okay.
I mean, the public can go to the cafe, but it's...
Right. And do the Stetson students frequent Funky Flamingo?
As far as, I don't know if any Stetson people are here. I have seen them walking by my house around that time.
Okay.
But yeah, Stetson isn't going anywhere. That is an institution.
Yeah.
If anything, they're expanding. The majority of homes in Ward 3 are owned by Stetson. If you ever see, there's a little green reflective thing on a mailbox. If you ever see a green reflective thing, that's a Stetson-owned home that they rent out to their families. So it's worth better partnership between the city and Stetson and kind of reimagining that space.
Okay. So we're still on the downtown. Yeah.
I got lots of ideas going through my head. So the mixed use, I really like that idea. One thought that I had before I even came here was efficiency apartments that can be blended in somehow as we're constructing because there's not enough housing for the young people and the older people that might need some place that's affordable and comfortable and livable. And also I was thinking about the parking because we love our events in Gulfport, that maybe we can partner with the schools during some of our special things that we have and have parking off-site that we can have a transport from the school down to the downtown area for parking. I know that they do that for the Green Thumb Collard Green Festival that St. Pete does. That they have parking out at the stadium and they pull people into the neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, since the main subject of this is for our vision of 2050, something for us to really be cognizant of is that transportation is changing. And the way we get around now, most of us are in our own gas-powered car, but we also see a lot of people who are riding e-bikes, scooters, and all sorts of things like that. And transportation is going to change. And it would be really lovely if we could design Gulfport to be car-free, where there's public transit, it's walkable, you have other forms of transportation, but what we call an automobile now would be passé, and you come to Gulfport, you can get all around without having to have a car.
Super. Anyone else want to expand on that? Oh, thank you.
So, to spread out downtown, I recently heard that Save-A-Lot is leaving, and that plaza, I think, is huge to be able to have, like multi-use structure, if you could get somebody to build something there that had, because right now you walk through and there's multiple shops there, so if it was like ground floor shopping along that with maybe studio apartments or something more affordable upstairs, it's a big lot, so there might be enough parking there to have people who live there and people who shop there. And it might make it inviting, like instead of just our little white welcome to Gulfport sign, like on the corner, to see trees and twinkling lights and something that looks like people actually live there rather than just this storefront that's closed after dark. And then it could spread past like McDonald's, and then people would be more invited to come down to like Annex or Smoke and Jay's or something like that. And then it makes it even more walkable to get to beach. And then at that point, you're walking from 49th all the way to downtown. So it connects all of that. I think that would be a good spot.
So I just have to say that before I retired, I lived in Duluth, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta, and we had a Save-A-Lot on an intersection very, very similar. And that intersection is so totally different now. Now it's all small apartments, and I think there's still a strip mall behind it, but what you see is the apartments and the sidewalks that wander around the apartments. So the whole intersection totally changed, and it's still a fairly busy intersection, so I don't think these are $1 million apartments that they put in there. I think, it's starter housing, as we used to call it. I think we're here and then here.
I was just gonna say that we have the looper that goes around. It only goes around during events. That should be stopped. The looper should be going around all the time. There are plenty of people that don't want to take their cars because I would say in the next month or so, you won't even be able to park in downtown. Okay, it'll be so crowded, you'll be driving around for an hour looking for a parking space, which is ridiculous. We have that, it should be utilized. They have the gems, that should be utilized a little bit more towards the evening to help people to get around. People would love to go out, but they can't because, one, they can't find a parking space, and two, they can't drive. There's no reason why we can't have a trolley service here also, which is something that we should. Another thing that we used to have, I've been coming here for the last 50 years. My grandmother was a resident here. I know how this place has boomed and has grown, and it will only get even more crowded as we move further into the years to come. There's trolley service that could be done. There's the looper that could be used more often. These are things that we already have that we're not utilizing, okay? We met, if I'm recalling straight, there used to be a little golf cart or a little car that used to go around, and it used to take people around. There's no reason why we can't try to see how much that would cost for people to do it, and if people are willing to pay for it, so be it, okay? It will save on pollution, it will save on people driving around for an hour, it will save on people parking in a spot and then walking around for hours and never leaving so no one else can park, okay? So we have to think about, again, we're going into, the next 25 or 30 years. Unfortunately, some of us won't be here, and we don't have enough young people here to say that what would they like to have in the next 25 years, okay? It's all great. Most of us here are probably 55 and over, with the exception of a few of us in here, okay? Honestly, they might not be thinking about what's gonna happen in 20 years. They're concerned about what's gonna happen right now. So we need to look at what we can do right now and also what we could do in the future to save Gulfport. I mean, we wanna see it grow, and a good way of looking at that is looking at New Hope Pennsylvania, they have small little businesses with little apartments upstairs, which is a good thing because you're keeping an eye on your business, but you're also able to live upstairs so you don't have to get back in your car, drive wherever you have to drive, so you're in your neighborhood. So it's a terrific idea, okay? But we should try to utilize the things that we have now to help the residents that are here now, not just only into the future, because we can carry that into the future. But again, trolleys, the looper, the gems, all those things. Those things should be, we should be using those now. Okay?
Alrighty.
To control some of the traffic and the noise
Oh,
and all.
that's our 3-minute warning, I guess, huh? Because I was going to yell at somebody, turn off your phone. Okay, I finally got it. Okay, go ahead.
Are you asking about mixed use because we don't have any? I thought the waterfront redevelopment district incorporated mixed use, but I don't see it happening.
I'm not trying to get to anywhere in particular. I'm just asking. I was here when they built the blue building, and that was going to be the end of the world. When they built the end of Gulfport, that blue building was going to shut us down. So and I come from Milwaukee and the Chicago area, and there's a lot of mixed use. So I just, again, I didn't necessarily want to control all the questions. I was trying to kick us off and get us thinking. So that's why I asked about mixed use.
But the waterfront redevelopment district does include mixed use, doesn't it?
I don't know that. I can think of one property that I know of, 2 properties that have that are doing mixed use. Exactly if those, got some kind of special, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I don't know everything after 5.5 months in office. Yes, Scott.
I'll speak to that.
Good.
And I'm not an official source, and I was only going to wear my Scotland resident hat, but I'll speak with both hats on this one. The Waterfront Redevelopment District does allow for mixed use, and that occurred. I don't know the details of what would and would not be permitted, and I don't know relative to existing structures or new structures that would be built, for example, the blue building. That was done prior, this is my understanding, to the state law that enables home-run businesses, which again, may have to do with residential areas versus commercial mixed-use areas, but the WRD absolutely allows for mixed use. And with both hats on, I'm pretty safe in saying that zoning adjustments, including mixed use, should be endorsed by everyone, certainly by the business community and by the community at large, in what are already commercial districts to allow work-live situations on 49th and on Gulfport makes just all the sense in the world.
Thank you. Anybody else on that topic? Yes.
I think mixed use is a great idea also. I'll second that motion. And my only thought on the trolleys, which I think is a great idea actually, is that if we do something like that, it might be better to consider doing it where we can have a central parking area so people living out can park someplace 10 minutes from downtown and come in a trolley coming frequently back and forth from that specific area, rather than having a trolley go all over Robin Hood's barn, as my grandmother used to say. And
Okay, and where do you think that we have a space to do that?
I've been thinking of that and squirming because I can't think of one right now, but I'm sure I've only been here 5 years.
Okay.
And I really can't think of one right now, but there may be some practical ideas that people may have that I don't have.
And that's exactly why we're doing this, because that's why I'm not sleeping at 2 and 3 in the morning. Okay, I'm going to move on unless somebody's still dying to say something about the downtown area. Would you like me to stop asking questions and just give you free time now?
I'd like to make a comment that's not infrastructure.
Okay.
So if you've got a question, go for it, or I don't know. Where
Yeah, go for it, and then if nobody else does, then I'll go on to my next question. Okay. Yep, there's our 3-minute timer.
I'm going to take you out to the year 2050. And my vision is that back in 2025, there was an awareness that there needed to be succession planning, that we knew that our leaders weren't going to always be in their roles, and that we needed to start thinking about leadership and use the current leadership to really develop through mentorship and through other kinds of leadership development like a leadership boot camp, mentoring, or even modeled something after Leadership St. Pete, but scaled to Gulfport. And with that, people became very much more attuned to and informed about how government worked, how the city worked, and they even brought in some planners. And these planners really looked at the trends and forces that impacts our town in these times. And these times are different times. And how do we take these times and take them into the future, and what needs to happen? So these times have hurricanes, they have environmental and economic and social disruptions. We have a lot of things going on in 2025, but we can still plan for a future and arrive at a shared vision that would be based not on necessarily all the details that we're talking about here, but on criteria that we agree with. Things that are really important: resiliency, agile, being able to accommodate changing environment, all those things taken into consideration, and bring in the kind of expertise that knows how to create the visuals that help us see what's possible, to take the ideas, yes, but more importantly, up 30,000 feet, what's the criteria that we all agree on? And that there'd actually be a process that we could use, not only the comprehensive plan, and that we would be able to get reports periodically so that we're all on the same page. Everybody would be going to city council meetings because they couldn't wait to learn more, right? There would be a plan, there'd be a master plan for Clymer Park that again would take into account all the criteria, all the needs, but it would be a plan that wouldn't necessarily all roll out at once, because who's got all the money for that? But maybe it would certainly take into account the food forest, maybe a walking trail. How do we make the use of this beautiful asset? But it would be planned in a way that it could be, as assets are available, as volunteers can come in and work. There, of course, would be a labyrinth somewhere in there. And maybe those vaults ideas under the park. All these things would be designed and planned in a way, but over time, so that we could afford that, or raise taxes if necessary, do millage or some other kinds of things. But there would also be the combined leadership, thank you for the time, there'd be the combined leadership and volunteers, that we'd have a way of doing this using our Gulfport Connects volunteer software that you'll be hearing about October 7th, so that you can find ways to plug in. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a quick go ahead.
I just kind of wanted to make a more specific recommendation based on that. I really like the idea of that. And I've thought about, I know St. Pete has a lot of citizen committees that are more involved with city council and looking through the budget and making recommendations. And so particularly there's specific interest groups or demographics, so like parents, young people taking care of young people. We have different needs. 6 p.m. on a weekday night is really hard for us to get to a meeting to be involved with the issue of childcare. And so if we're looking at how do we engage the next generation of people who are going to be involved in our city government, and whether it's an elected position or volunteer basis, we have to think in a different way, including digital engagement. Not everyone's going to be able to come in person, and a lot of us are online a lot. And so how do we bridge those two and make sure it's the right conversation, but we're getting people involved and knowledgeable? I texted my group, and a lot of people didn't know about tonight. My group of mom friends, so how do we make sure people are informed and have the time and feel like it's important and that their voice is heard?
So I beg every single person to realize that we have a website that is full of information, absolutely full of information, mygulfport.us. It is full of information. Besides that, the city manager puts out a very detailed report every single Friday, okay? Besides that, every single Monday comes out a newsletter that is emailed to you if you'll take the half a minute, to sign up for it. So, when somebody says they don't know about something, I'm like, wow, it's because over the years, nobody's really pushed this. So from here on out, at all city council meetings, always on our screens are going to be, how do you get the email? How do you contact us? How do you get to the website? There's so much information there if you look for it. So I have a real quick, easy question. Oh,
A quick comment on downtown.
Yes.
And maybe an extension to what's today, the Tuesday market and first Friday and third Saturday.
yes.
What if from 28th along Beach Boulevard all the way to Shore, that was a permanent promenade where there were cafes, water fountains, so there was no vehicle traffic, but that's all pedestrian from 28th down to Shore. It just becomes, I've seen that in Los Angeles, I've seen it in Miami, in different places where it attracts a lot of businesses. Perfect opportunity for planting trees and just making a park or, so that's one. And the other one doesn't have to be downtown, but I don't know, I was just thinking of an aquarium somewhere along Gulfport and just attracting people. Anyway, those two ideas.
Thank you. Yes.
Real quick.
That's fine.
You guys, I love what you're talking about. I won't be here in 10 years, let
Oh, yeah, you will.
But,
I hope so.
okay, and you mentioned 28. How about the Windway homes that's going in across from the library on 27? That doesn't sound like what you want. Are you going to keep up with that?
Well, I'm not going to address anything about a personal business and a personal landowner's decision if they're fitting into our code. But so moving along, if we were going to have an amphitheater, I'm just throwing this out. I think somebody else maybe referred to it as something else. If we were going to be looking at an amphitheater or outside theater or a music venue, where do you think it should be?
We already have one there.
Trolley Market Square.
Okay, gotcha.
That whole area is so disused.
Okay.
It's beautiful. I don't know why we spent all the money to redevelop it and clean up the brownfield if it's not being used to its full potential. Plus, it would draw interest and possibly more businesses and definitely more shoppers and diners to that area. There's some up and coming stuff happening on 49th and on Tangerine, of course. I think that we have quite enough going on at Clymer Park. It's a beautiful park.
Great. Yeah.
Actually, I was the one that made the mention about the amphitheater.
Yes.
They used to show the movies behind the rec center in that ballpark that I believe is not being used at all. So, and any music would be out over the water. So as far as the noise ordinance would go, it really wouldn't interrupt a lot of the actual residents that don't want that, because it's just out into the bay, into our mooring field. And that's where they actually used to show the movies. I know that there's already a lot of stuff going on in that area, but to put it at Tangerine, and like that lady said, I wouldn't ruin Clymer Park. That whole strip's a beautiful area. Maybe do some more park stuff there. But the other thing is the only place that's gonna have even close to adequate parking would probably be at the end of 58th Street. Because then as far as somebody said, as far as shuttles go, you could use the two schools. Boca Ciega's straight up 58th Street, so it's an easy ferry back and forth, or shuttle, or whatever you'd like to call it. And then there's also, you could maybe talk to Holy Name Church, if that's there. They have a very large parking lot that been a pillar of this community for years. So they might even allow the city to use that temporarily. But I just don't see the city purchasing more properties for something like that, when you already have some properties that are city owned and just not used right now. And the amphitheater really wouldn't change behind the rec center at all, because the field would still be there. It just basically, in the vision would be a stage with a backdrop to prevent music from going backwards. And then your music's projected all the way over the water to where, who cares what Tierra Verde thinks?
Okay, so when I asked that question, I heard rec center and trolley Trolley Square. Anything else? Any other area you think that that could be? Okay, then I'm going to move along to, I think I've got one more good question that I thought was a good question. And just know a lot of these questions are things that have been posed to me, okay? So I'm telling you that because, again, I'm not trying to direct you any which way. I don't, have an agenda here. I'm asking questions that have been asked of me, and the fact that I do think that we need to be talking about the future, so that, because we have such an opportunity right now, the fact that Mother Nature has forced us into this position to look at these things and reevaluate, and so it's a great time. So with that in mind, I actually have two more questions, okay? One is, and this is a little bit broad, okay? I'd like to hear from anyone who wants to, and again, I'm not looking at necessarily today, but as we move towards the future, I'd like to know your thoughts on one-way streets, no traffic streets, eliminate parking on Beach Boulevard totally, parking on Beach between, parking along the sides of Beach between 28th and 23rd, and creating smaller parking spaces designated for golf carts. I mean, golf carts, take up a whole space, but they don't need to. So that's kind of where I would like to hear. And again, I'm not so much talking about what we're going to do in the next year, but because here's one thing I learned, nothing happens fast in government, okay? So down the road, the future, what are we looking at? And you can start, Lenny.
Well, I've been trying to hit on transportation for a few comments I've been making. And when we're talking about looking at 2050, what we're seeing now on the road may not exist at all. We may not have a time where you actually own transportation, where you have a transportation service, where maybe something like you'd be ranging from like an Uber to a shuttle, but we don't have to have cars, we don't have to have parking, we don't have to have garages, all that would change our residential space and our commercial space, our recreational space. If we can look at a future where we don't have to have a big machine to drive us from one point to another, but we can get our own transportation delivered to us, or we have personal transportation like a bike or e-bike or some kind of cart that would take much less space, much less parking, then that would change all of our requirements for how we build, including the requirement for parking. So I think this is really a critical issue and would take a lot of looking into the trends for transportation to help us plan for that. I think
Okay.
it's a critical issue.
Okay. Yes.
Hey, Mayor Love, how are you?
All right.
Vicky, thanks for getting up earlier. This is going back to the question about the amphitheater, and then it just got me thinking about what JC said about the promenade. So we closed off the street one time for a block party, and it was just temporary. So what if there was a temporary closure of Beach Boulevard as like an experiment, maybe on a monthly basis, that wasn't just Gecko Fest, or like the once a year kind of, I don't know, how many other times is it blocked off like that?
Pride, Gecko Fest, and Get Rescued.
And Get Rescued, okay. So that's just one idea. And I know JC's from Latin America, and I've traveled a little bit, and people probably have been to those places. It really would be nice. As a parent with little ones, so many times it's hard for me not to be like angry at drivers, just like watching them drive, so fast. You to like hold your child up, and be like, I have a little child here. So anyway, we could just slow things down would be so nice. Like Barbara's gallery, like being able to pull up, but not just in a car, but just like in an e-bike, but not like trying to avoid. So that's one thought. And then, I just want to put my service out there. I've just been involved in communities, and communities that are artistic, so maybe the artistic design could also include the youth. And I'm happy to do that. I have a passion for just like getting the young people to make their voices known. So I know like at the rec center, there's a teen council, and I've tried in the past, I think with April and Maribel, but you were talking about the website and the email newsletter list. Is there any other way that like a young person would find updates, let's say on social media, or that they could also like contribute their ideas? That would be not, just to be honest, not a lot of us go to websites or use email newsletter as frequently as we do social media, I think.
Well, the city of Gulfport has a Facebook page, and I make posts on it at least twice a week, and people can come on and comment, but that doesn't mean that they can come on. Even I can't make my own posts. I write my posts, and then I wait until the appropriate person at the city makes it for me. So I can't, so they're not going to do that. But there's nothing to stop you from leading a group of young people in creating a city of Gulfport, a Gulfport teen page. Okay. I mean, go for it.
That's cool.
I mean, I'm all in favor of everybody, having a focus group and volunteers and everybody working and coordinating and not counting on the government for everything.
Sounds great. Okay,
so again, I'm asking about one-way streets, parking up the side of all the way up to 23rd, along Clymer Park on the sides, whether it's full-time or just when we're having festivals, changing traffic flows to what we have now, anything like that different than what we're doing. Karen.
Okay. When the traffic was, when parking was eliminated on the west side of 53rd, I think that was for, might have been for Gecko Fest. You could drive down the street, no problem. When there's parking on both sides of streets like that in that part of town, down where I live, it's a slalom. And I can't imagine how like an emergency vehicle would get through there. I think that many of those streets, it would be wonderful if they were one-way streets, or at a minimum, parking on one side.
Thank you. Yes.
I love the idea of parks instead of roads, but the problem is, and I'm not a business owner, but to find parking anywhere down there now is a pain in the butt. And that's just taking away from people that can patronize all those businesses. Because most of the people that actually live in Gulfport can walk down there, know that it's a parking nightmare, so we walk or take an alternative mode of transportation. So if they do turn those into parks, where are you going to put that overflow of people that want to patronize those businesses? Because a lot of people that live in Gulfport, and I know I've been here forever, so I'm an old, but I don't want the city to spend extra money. I wouldn't pay it I would be glad to pay it in my taxes. But there again, we have to start looking at alternative areas for those cars to be. I don't want to see a parking garage ruin our waterfront. I don't. I mean, it's beautiful down there now. I appreciate it. I know a lot of other cities have done it. But I think trying to look at alternative areas for people to park or make the existing green spaces, because when I first moved here to Gulfport, I don't know how many people have been here that long, but a lot of these beautiful city parks were run down dumps. And at the time, we had there was a huge turnaround. And now it's beautiful and those parks have really developed. But I really think we need to take that in consideration when we talk about making these parks, to have alternative places. Because I know the gentleman's saying in 25 years, there's probably not going to be cars or it's going to be alternative. But we're in the here and now. And those businesses down there and the businesses on the other places, they need to survive, because small business, that's what makes Gulfport unique. We don't let a lot of big chains in here. And I really like that. But we need to take that into consideration. Because trust me, I love the parks. but people gotta be able to get to the businesses in order to spend their money. And a lot of people that already live here have the alternative. They can walk, or, you know, maybe the trolley system, but thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, are you up? Okay.
So I love one-way streets, if not only for like the east-west streets that are south of the library. I think one-way would be awesome down there to kind of avoid the gridlock that happens when people are looking for parking. Also, my dream would be that beach and shore are like 10 miles an hour so that you don't have the concern of like, if you're in a rush, don't take those two streets. So if you're not, then you can at least, while you might be looking for parking, also see like, maybe I'll try to park there because I want to go to that shop, or something beyond just the street that you need to get to or the parking spot that you need to steal. Slow it down.
Thank you. Marilyn, are you trying to?
I'm short. Yeah, I love the idea of the one-way streets as long as they're consistent. I think that's a big part of it. Golf cart parking lots, I know they're coming for a reason. There's nothing worse than you're looking for a parking place and there's a golf cart in there. So if we had a lot especially for them, that'd be great. But I also, especially in light of the recent tragedy, I wish we had more of a bike lane situation. And I don't mean a lane that you're sharing with a car. So if we can come up with a way, there's more and more bikes coming into town. I know there's e-bikes and all the scooters or whatever. And then even along that line, if we had some more areas that were just for bike parking, not just a single bike rack in front of a business, because that gets a little cumbersome, but if there was an area where there were 4 or 5 bike racks and everybody was parking there, then it might be a little cleaner and we'd have not bikes everywhere. But
Super. Yes.
Yeah, I'm back. About the outlying parking, you know, there are a number of parking lots. There's Hoytfield, there's Tomlinson. There are places where people can park. If we had a reliable trolley or something where people knew if I park there, I can get to where I want to go, that would help a lot. The other thing is, you need to let people know about these alternative parking areas, especially when we get the reliable trolley that's going to come and get them, or they can make a phone call and somebody will, or text somebody, or app somebody, and they have a way to get where they're trying to go. They're typically trying to get downtown. But I think trying to please everybody by having a parking space right in front of where they're trying to go, that's an impossible dream.
Courtney? Jonathan?
Oh, thank you, ma'am. I just want to suggest that we spend too much time talking about parking, that it's a problem when it's busy, it's not a problem when it's not. It's true everywhere on the planet. It's just not a big deal. That if we do have an inspired idea, like, oh, maybe 31st should be one way, or what, let's find a scientific way to test it, try it, measure it, poll the neighbors, whatever, and measure it. And if it's better, change it. But there is going to be no day, no way that, oh, wow, I can pull up anywhere in front of where I want to be at the peak hour and hop out. You know, it isn't going to happen. And all these ideas, I love the pedestrian ideas. Again, try them, because the flip side is going to be, as has been said, where are people going to park? So I just think we could move on. That's all.
All righty.
I agree, but I'm still going to talk. The only way that you can change traffic patterns is by making it inconvenient to drive. So we're doing all of this hand-holding, gentle parenting of like, oh, how can we make it better to park? We just need to just put the roundabouts in, destroy the parking, like no parking. I mean, that's a radical idea. But the thing is, like, the only way that you make change, I love the idea of doing a proof of concept. This happens all over the world, where one day a month or one day a year, you shut it down and people activate the space. They do it along Central, I think on Halloween, and it's a magical event. So I think that there's making it inconvenient to drive. Doesn't sound nice, but it works. Secondly, roundabouts, great. Losing my train of thought here. Oh, the trolley, if it's just a regular, like a Friday night and a Saturday day into the evening to do the proof of concept, don't be afraid of sounding like a broken record. People have been here 20, 30 years, and I'm sure there are things that they didn't know about until tonight. So do not be afraid to sound like a broken record. The more signage, the better. The more reiteration, the better. Just we need to like keep saying it.
All righty. So here's my last question. It's 7:31. Oh, I'm sorry. I still have two more. Go ahead.
Just a suggestion for, they were talking about like where to park bicycles. And in my old neighborhood, there was like the community had old shipping containers that they, like somehow they cut out the front of it. There were different art groups that came and decorated them. They were called bike boxes, and they kept them strategically around the neighborhood, like at one end of the street and another end of the street of different neighborhoods, so that people can, in bulk, store your bicycles. They're covered because it's that shipping container, so it's kind of inside. So if it does rain, you have an e-bike, it might be like a better situation for storage, and they're all in a group, so, you know, safety in numbers. They're not gonna steal your one bike off of a bike stand in front of a shop. Maybe like a big spot would be cool. And I don't like roundabouts, but some other traffic calming thing I would love. Something in the middle of the road, speed bumps, something that slows traffic down. I'm all for it.
Ford Pinellas just came out with a study that said roundabouts are by far the safest way to go for traffic calming. Wait, I've got this one.
Hello. I lived in Safety Harbor for 34 years prior, which is exactly, or was, similar to Gulfport. It's almost the exact same square mileage. I was involved extremely with the city, and we did a planning thing like this for 2 months. We met every week. We broke out into groups. Parking was the number one issue. 40 years later, same issue. So I agree with you, sir. The other thing is the one-way streets are definitely needed. And the reason I say that, if you get in touch with Safety Harbor, which I highly recommend, because you guys are so similar. And I think collaboration and information is power. So I would highly recommend that. And they had an issue where they were parked on both sides, and there was fire. And they couldn't get down the street. They couldn't save that house. So I don't think this is a 25-year plan. I'm thinking soon as possible plan, because that's going to become an issue. The other thing is I moved here because this was a little town. And I love the businesses. We definitely have to get the young involved. There's nobody here, hardly, no offense. I won't be here 25 years from now either. But we need to get the young people involved. They should be here. Whether we go to the high schools and say, hey, can we just come talk to you about, if you're gonna stay in Gulfport, what do you see? Because what we see, really? Because they don't do what we do. Go to the email, go to the page. No. What he said is right. You have to get them on the phone. That's it. Or on the computer. And I pray that the McMansions do not take over Gulfport. And I'll leave it with that.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Yes, and then I'm going to move on.
Yeah, one quick thing on, I spent 20 years in emergency services and firefighting, and I will say that one-way streets are our best friends in the fire department with a truck, and getting there to the point we just made. And roundabouts are your worst enemy because, we had a ladder truck that we were trying to get through often. And if you get to a roundabout, we actually had to drive over the roundabout and did some damage to our ladder truck, which was not great. So that's something to really consider. What's going to go through there, and at what speed is that going to go through there, and that sort of thing. And I'll say one last thing. I think this is great tonight. I really enjoyed it and learned a lot. And I would just say my personal opinion would be, it would be great to look to 2035 next time. Because I just figure that, I mean, I'm thinking 25 years I'll be 102, okay? And I don't think I'll be here. And, you know, it just seems, I recall an old Army saying that was, the battle plan is good until the first shot is fired. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so here's my last question then. And this is something that's, the last question, this is something that's really been on my mind. And if I don't word it exactly right, it's okay, you can expand on it. Of course, you know, there's a lot of planning and executing and engineering of what's going into our beach. So I'm not, again, so much talking about today, but I have this very strong feeling Mother Nature's not done, you know, that we're going to see storms again, okay? So one of the things I'd ask from you is if you kind of told me, like, how important is, I mean, we're not going to lose our waterfront, but how important is the beach and the way it's being used now? Are we using our waterfront, in your opinion, to the best advantage that we should be? Or do you envision that it could be used a different way? Okay? So, yeah, Scott, you were up first.
Opening there, Karen.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty.
This is what I've been waiting for because 25 years planning is not that long for what I'm about to talk about, but everything I'm going to say is probably illegal, probably unaffordable, and it's going to be very unpopular with a lot of people.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is that we have climate change and we have rising sea levels, and we're at the front line of that, and we got it proven to us a year ago.
Yeah.
So what's the answer to that? The one that makes sense to me is not short-term thinking and not short-term planning, but long-term planning. What does that mean? It means managed retreat. That's or unmanaged retreat. That's our choice, right? But we have private property rights. We hear about it at city council meetings every other week. Bert Harris can't do the Bert Harris that. There's loopholes, there's lobbying, there's whatever it takes, the intent has to be, we have to manage this. And then all the other things start to fall into place. Suddenly, you need businesses and you need residences up on 49th and Gulfport Boulevard. Our beach will be a living shoreline, and what it used to be. That's the way that we do this. And all these things, this town is not, I don't have a problem with a stadium or anything like that, but people come here because of the charm of this community. We move here because of the charm of this community, and people visit us and spend their money here because of the charm of this community. We can maintain that with a living shoreline and some creative structuring, which could include parking garages, by the way. They can be disguised by plantings on top and be, in other areas that they're not visible, but the cars will be there. We can do alternative transportation, because the future is alternative transportation. It's not the cars we drive today. Milano, there's local transportation, but the city limits are closed to outdoor traffic, and then you have internal traffic, whatever that looks like. There's ways to solve these problems. They will naturally evolve, but unless we have the political will, the community will, all of the things, it's not going to be here in 50 years. So we may have to spend the next 25 years figuring out what 50 years from now looks like, and get the legal responsibility to do that. And by the way, things are legal, not legal. It's a changing political climate, but loopholes in the law have made a lot of progress around the world that became new trend. That became a loophole, became a trend, became the way it was done because it turned out to be right. So we can do this. And as far as making plans, we don't have to spend it on engineers. My school I went to, my specialty was industrial design, but we had urban planners. Send this to the colleges. I'll do it. I'll find my old team. We'll get a bunch of student contests. Do a planning. Do 10 different plans. The whole class that does a plan for Gulfport. Then we could talk about it. We got something on the table. It's a vision. But it's just not realistic to think that we're going to keep rebuilding casinos or rebuilding systems down on the waterfront. It's going to last. We were at a presentation on Sunday, I think, over at Sacred Lands, and he gave a lot of examples of, well, we spent $5 million to get 5 more years, and then we spent $10 million to get 2 more years. It's coming up. It's coming up. That's it. End of story, right? So let's be realistic about it. Let's deal with it. Thank you.
Yes.
So I'll take a breath. I just really want to underline what Scott was talking about, because it's very much the way I think is really, let's do that kind of planning, let's bring in that kind of expertise, let's gather the information. But is anybody else here an urban planner? Does anybody else have that expertise? I don't know that we do in this group, but they certainly exist. And it's nice to have visions by people who know things, like the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Commission. They're doing this kind of work. They have the ability to bring visualizations to that take the collective thought and then make it happen, and then put a price tag on it, because it does have to deal with that kind of reality. And I think that way we can come together and gather a lot of information from this. And I appreciate you, Karen, for always wanting to get input from us. But I think there's also a level at which we need to be pulled to a higher vision by people who know how to do that. And the living shoreline, I think, is really important so that we can be here. I've lived on, my family's been on Boca Ciega Bay since the mid-1960s, and I've seen a lot of changes, and I would love to see it thrive.
Thank you. Yes.
I think being able to see what that would look like is really important. I think it's hard for people to imagine. When you asked where does downtown start before, I was thinking Clymer Park. But I didn't want to say that because that feels really scary. But
that is
that's
what
the
I'm asking.
reality, right? So it would be mud flat until Clymer Park. That's what, maybe not 2050, but certainly close to that. And I think what keeps Gulfport special is the fact that we do not have a white sand beach. That's why it's not filled with hotels. That's why it's not St. Pete Beach, because it's kind of smelly. It's not a great experience to go hang out by the beach at all times of the day. And it's an ecological, unique, beautiful thing that is not meant for recreation 100%. And so the living shoreline and letting nature do what it needs to do. How many times in the next 25 years are we going to rebuild the casino? That just doesn't seem like it's something that's sustainable, that's going to work. And so, but I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to understand. And so without seeing it, what that could look like, what that would mean, it's going to be a hard thing for people to get behind. And really, it's a reality that's hard to accept, I think.
Mm-hmm. And again, that's really the whole reason why we're doing this right now, is because by listening to you, it helps me, because tonight I can't answer questions. There's all kinds of reasons I can't answer questions, but I can lead discussions and answer questions and give my opinions at council meetings. So the things that are coming up today are areas that we can focus on over the next year or so, you know? I mean, initially when this new council came in, all we could do was talk about permitting, you know? But, you know, we've made some advancements, so, you know, we can start talking about other things, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish tonight, is to learn what's on your brain and what are you thinking of in the future, so that we can come back. So I'm gonna tell you it's 7:47 now, so I'd like to kind of wrap up like in the next 15 minutes, but I'm not gonna ask any questions. I'm gonna more have it as an open floor. Now, if there's anything that, you know, as you've been sitting here listening now that, oh, I wish we would have talked about this or that, now's the time. Go.
All right, something that I've seen around, I grew up here in St. Pete. I've been here for, gosh, since I was like a year old, and that was a long time ago. Bartlett Park in St. Petersburg has a canal of water. And when I was growing up, I could see from one side of the park to the other side of the park. I could see that body of water. We could see the alligators coming up. Okay. And what they've done is they have the living shoreline where you've got the mangroves, and they're so high you cannot see the water. I missed that water. It made that park complete, and it has separated that whole park So when you talk about a living shoreline, please look at Bartlett Park and what that has done to the park. And also know that up in Tarpon Springs, where they also love to see the water, that on the coldest night of the year, they will go through and they will cut the mangroves so that those houses can see the water. And I know that because my job took me up there many times, and it was always in the middle of the night, on the coldest night of the year, that it was like there must have been a massive crew that came through. And I don't have anything against cutting the mangroves if that's what they're doing, is they're helping. But to have them grow to a point where we're not able to see the water, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
A great example of what you just said is if you go to Palmetto, to the River House, I think it's called, right there on the river. So you've got that little strip mall, and then you've got a seawall, and then you have 20 feet of mangroves, but they're low to the ground. So if you're standing anywhere there, and then there's the marina, and then there's the restaurant way out there. They didn't take any damage in there at all because of those mangroves, but they were cut. They don't take any view away whatsoever. So I love that you brought that up, because mangroves don't have to block the view.
No, they don't.
Good point.
And like I say, Bartlett Park, every time I go down there, it saddens my heart to know that there is a huge body of water that people used to fish from the shoreline. Just cast a line out there because they could see the water. And yeah, a few dogs might have gotten eaten too, so.
Yeah.
We do have alligators here.
Yes.
The one thing the gentleman said, I appreciate it. I think he's right. I think that a shoreline like that would be beneficial. The issues are you're going to have to take everybody from 29th to the beach that owns property there and come up with some kind of incentive for the next 25 years where they live there, they don't pay taxes. At the end of the 25 years, they're gone. Because you've got you can't deal with it any other way. There's no other way to deal with it legally right now. As far as mangroves are concerned, I think it's a great idea. So you have a statutory provision where you can cut certain mangroves down from to 6 feet from their substrate, and other ones you can window. But the beneficial results of mangroves, it can't be compared to anything, as seawalls or anything else. It just can't be. So it's important to have it there. And I just think that Gulfport has to be realistic. I mean, a lot of the ideas are really good ideas, and I think we have to be realistic about what can be attained, not just what we think is the best thing, but what can really be attained in that 25 years or the next 50 or the next 75, whatever it is. You can have a plan that steps through that, considering what's going to happen with climate, and what's going to happen with science and everything else, and whether or not we still have cars to drive. I couldn't wait when I was 17 to be able to drive my car and have a little freedom. And I don't know how other kids feel today. I might tell my grandkids, forget it, you're not going to drive a car. They wouldn't believe it. But obviously things are going to change in that regard. And so there are some things we can plan for that are going to change because of those kinds of changes that are going to take place. But some kind of provision for I don't think the trolley is the right thing. I think there are some kind of shuttles you can put in, find some places where there are a lot of parking spaces around, whether it's shopping centers that are closed for events, or whether it's the ballparks, or whether it's one of the churches that let us use their spaces. So there are ways to do that. There are a lot of places, and I've been to a lot of them, Cape May, New Jersey, and places in Savannah and all, they close streets, but they have parking. So they close streets and they make these great venues for people to be able to walk, and they have trees and they have sitting areas that really make it a nice space. But they have parking somewhere else. So to take Beach Boulevard and say, we're just going to close it and make it that, it'd be beautiful, but you can't be unrealistic. You have to realize there are still people that are going to come here, and they're coming in cars. So you have to be able to somehow accommodate all that at the same time. I think the temporary one where you close it on certain nights and say, hey, like we did for the fireworks, yeah, it's great. Do that. Say certain nights we're going to do this and have some other kind of theme event to it. Yeah, great idea. It's a good one.
Yes.
Since this is our open minute,
It would be lovely to see Gulfport have some, as a city, financial investment in our arts community. The business community has done a ton over the years through all our festivals and that kind of thing. But with the political climate and the defunding of the arts on the national and the county level, we're at risk of losing a lot of our artists here in town. We've already experienced that with the rise in housing and the storms. And so we are a very small municipality. It's not necessarily realistic for us to have an arts commission, but we have a very strong volunteer community. Like we have our teen council, our the Historic Preservation Council, that are voluntary committees that come together to perhaps run grant funding cycles on a yearly basis that could be given to artists to maintain the arts in our community for the long term.
I don't know your name, but I hope that you'll reach out to me on my email. Pardon?
It's Krista. It's with the
Oh, I didn't even see you, Krista. Krista, reach out to me on my email. I have a lot of thoughts. Yes.
You again. It's a smackdown. Thank you for going out to 2050 because it does give us a little stretch. I think humans grossly overestimate what they can do in a short time and underestimate what they can do in a longer period of time. And with that in mind, I'd like to be 2050. We're celebrating 25 years since Gulfport hired an infrastructure officer, we won't call it resilience, not under the city manager, independent of the city manager, working directly and advising the council and driving policy, filling a huge talent gap that I'm seeing between basically all of us and the government, with all respect, and the high-priced engineers that we would hire. And there's this yawning gap in between where we really just have no idea. So we're like, what about this? What about that? I don't know. What do you think? And nothing happens. That person, many things they could be looking at. One would be a breakwater that would protect downtown Gulfport, provide a lot of, I won't go into all the benefits it could provide, but it's worth investigating. I don't know if it'll work, but somebody who knows would.
Corps of Engineers did turn us down for that.
Well, yeah, would have been fun to be in that room. Okay, putting utilities underground. I think it's excrescent that we pollute our airwaves with wires in the air. You would never build a community like that today. If we had 25 years, could we get our utilities underground? Trees, we know we need to do more on our canopy streets that are permeable, potentially don't absorb so much heat, all that kind of stuff. Now, a couple ideas that are just purely wild, my own stuff. I'd like to bring North and South Gulfport together, Ingrid knows this, with a tunnel under Gulfport Boulevard, or maybe 2 tunnels, okay? I would like Gulfport to have architectural diversity, to be an exciting place where people stop just building boring houses, and it becomes a place we come and people drive around and look and are excited to see the different cool houses. We got a community full of artists. Houses are living art, the art you live in. So that's kind of my vision, some of my visions for 2050. It's a lot of what we have and more so, but definitely with an infrastructure officer helping us every step of the way. Because most of what we talk about has something to do with where humans bump into nature, and that person would be there to help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Something that an infrastructure officer could do could be to oversee a few of these fun ideas. But before, when I was talking about roundabouts and traffic, when you want behavior to change, often you have to make things unappealing or get in the way. Another thing you can do is incentivize stuff. So piggybacking on what Vicki mentioned back at the beginning of the meeting about not wanting to see code violations for nature being nature during nature's cycle, I would like to propose or see in 25 years, hopefully sooner, a pilot program to begin with, expanding fuller throughout the city that you can apply to be a rain garden property or a wild property during the wet season. There are certain things that we need to maintain, so sight lines for safety, but we can let our grass grow long. We can do that if by a certain day we come into compliance. Now, nature will likely do that for us where things go fallow, but just so that we can see that and we can do a proof of concept first. Secondly, I think that Gulfport is fantastic and it's an organic place where intergenerational exchange happens. I would like to see a little more intentionality behind that so that multi-generational support for the senior center can happen. This came up in a council meeting about what could we do, how could we get more involved. There was an idea of having open gym use for people that aren't seniors, perhaps different hours, but ways that we can be more creative about maintaining the spaces. I'm not suggesting that the senior center become all ages, all hours of the day, but how can people younger get involved, support, see the real value of that space, activate that space, and then have these organic intergenerational exchanges happen again and again. I think that's all.
Thank you. Okay, before I say meeting's over, anybody else just dying to make their last statement? So I mean it when I say thank you so much for coming and taking your time and giving your input. I know it was recorded. I don't know how somebody's going to view it. We'll figure that, we'll find out, and we'll post how it's happening. But thank you for your time. Again, I'm very, very responsive to emails. klove@mygulfport.us. I respond to emails many times every day. If I don't know the answer to your question, I'm going to tell you I don't know, but I'll find out and I will get back to you. Okay? Thank you all so much.